I think I come to the same conclusion as you, Joe, but I have a very different take on zero-hour contracts. And the reason I think...
Oh, no, that was bank holidays, sorry.
the reason, in my view, the unequivocal explanation for their... unarguable explanation for their existence is that employment law itself has become too restrictive. When you take an employee on now, there are many on-costs, if you like, just beyond the salary that you have to bear, and there are many regulations to which an employer becomes bound. And employers have reacted to the ever-increasing burden of formal employment contracts.
Be specific. OK, so national insurance, and then in terms of regulation, things like maternity leave,
sick pay, pension contributions, all these things, and notice periods and the inability to part if you change direction as a company.
No fault to parts.
No fault to parts. I think that was tenancies, but it's all the same kind of thing. And paradoxically, as you increase the protections through employment law, what you do is give businesses incentives, such as these ones that rely particularly on unskilled workers, to find ways round that.
Yeah.
And the zero-hour contract, I think, doesn't need more regulation to protect those who are in zero-hour contracts. What we need is less regulation of the employment market itself, so that it's much easier for employers to employ and then let go of employees when you need to let them go.
Everyone wants to be employed because because I think zero-hour contracts are going to be very controversial, but I think they can be a very, very good thing. Well, they can give you a source of income. Yes, you don't know exactly how many hours you're going to have, but it's good for the employer, particularly in areas like hospitality, when they can't control demand for their services. There are older people who benefit from zero-hour contracts. There are younger people who benefit from zero-hour contracts. I think a ban on them altogether is just unrealistic. And
well, I'm not suggesting a ban. What I'm suggesting is that if you deregulate employment itself, the need for zero-hour contracts evaporates. We've always had flexible work. Flexible work has never not been a thing.
Exactly. Yes, we don't want to ban self-employment.
No, and I think that you mentioned catering and hospitality. There are many, many people who've worked in that sort of sphere, myself included, where you'd get a call saying, can you come in? We've got a booking of, extra tables tonight, or we don't need you tonight. Lots of that sort of thing. We are freelancers, freelance journalists, freelance broadcasters. But I think... I don't agree with Ben in obviously in abandoning or making...
I didn't say abandon. I said reduce the regulation associated with employment.
People need protection, I'm afraid, but the government has failed miserably. It promised and has failed. 2019, it promised to bring in its employment bill. It's done nothing.
So I'd probably scrap my rights in favour of more money. There was an option.
Well, absolutely. And that's what happens. I mean, it's a really powerful point you make, Emily, because when you cut back on regulations, you reduce friction in the economy, more money is available to be paid. That is exactly the result that happens. I just want to finish. I just want to say one thing before we go off this topic, and that is that the other consequence of pushing employers towards zero-hour contracts because it's so burdensome to employ people full-time is that you inculcate a low-skilled, high turnover, lack of loyalty, lack of security in the workplace, in the workforce. And all of that is bad for the economy.
Yeah.